In this lecture, I am going to create an API endpoint to get list of comments for a particular blog in node.js. So let's open our blog comment.out.js file and then let's add a new route for our getComments API endpoint. Route method will be get and URL will be our base URL slash blog ID as a route parameter slash comments, and it will execute block comments controller list method. Now let's open our block comment.controller.js file and then let's export a method called list, and then let's get request and response as a parameter to this method. And inside this list method, I'll get the blog ID which is present inside our route URL as a route parameter, and I'll store the value to a variable called blog_id. And then I'll check is this blog ID a valid mongoose ID or not. And if this blog ID is not a valid mongoose ID, then I'll return a JSON response with message invalid blog ID. And then I'll check is this blog ID is present inside our blogs collection or not. And we already checked that inside our create method in the last lecture with the help of blog models findOn method. So I'll copy the code and I'll paste inside our list method, and then I'll remove this lines of code from here. And inside this findOn method, I'm providing a condition inside an object. The condition will be _id is equal to this blog ID, and we'll get the data to this callback method. And if no block found, then we'll return the JSON response with message no block found, and if any block found, then I'll return the comments for the blog. I'm going to use aggregate method to get the comments data. So I already used aggregate method inside our block controllers list method. So I will take this code from here. So this will be a query variable where I'll store all the conditions inside an array. And the first condition I'm going to make, I'm going to load user data for each comment, and I'm going to load user data from users collection, and the local field will be user_id, I think. Yes, user_id. So let's provide local field as user_id, and the foreign field will be _id, and I'm going to load user data to this user field, and I'm going to get user data inside an object. So I'll provide $unwind and I'll provide $user here. Okay, this will load user data for each comment inside an object, and then I'm going to get the comment for this blog only. So I'll provide a match condition, and inside this match condition I'll provide blog ID, and we need to provide the blog ID here inside mongoose types object ID method. So let's provide blog ID inside this mongoose type object ID method, and then I need to call aggregate method of our block comment model, and I'll store list of comments data to a variable called comments, and then I'll call block comments model aggregate method, and inside this aggregate method I'll provide the condition which is stored in this query variable, and this will return as a promise. So let's use await here, and after getting list of comments I'll return a JSON response with this comment data. So let's take the return response from our block controllers list method, where I return list of blocks data. So let's comment this code from here and paste it inside this list method. Okay, so after getting list of comments data, I'll return a JSON response with message. So the message will be comments successfully fetched, and I'll return this comments data to this comments key of our data object, and this will be the list of comments. For now I'll remove this meta key from here, and then let's execute our getComments API endpoint from Postman. Let's open a new tab, and then let's provide the request URL, which will be our base URL slash blog ID as a route parameter slash comments, and route method will be get. Let's execute this endpoint. You see now we are getting list of comments in the JSON response, and we have user data for each comment. Okay, now I'm going to add short functionalities. So I'll add another object to this query array, and I'll provide $short here, and I'm going to get the latest comment in the first position. That's why we'll provide created at is equal to -1 for descending order. Now this should return the latest comment in the first position. Now it's returning the latest comment in the first position. Now I will add paginations for our getCommands API endpoint. I added paginations inside our block controllers list method. So I will take the code from our block controllers list method where we already added paginations. So I will take the code and I will paste inside this list method of our block comment controller. So we are storing the total comments to a variable called total, and we can get the total comments with the help of block comments model count documents method, and inside this count documents we need to provide the conditions. So this will hold the total comments count, and then I am generating a new variable called page which will hold the current page, and I am checking if page is present inside our request URL as a query parameter. Then we are typecasting the page to integer with the help of parseInt method, and the default page will be 1. Similarly, for the par page I am checking if there is any query parameter present inside our request URL called par page, then we are typecasting to integer, or the default par page value will be 10. And then we are generating our skip data with this logic, and it will be page -1 multiplied by par page, and then we are pushing the skip data and limit data to this query array. Okay, and then I'll provide the metadata for pagination inside this data object. So I'll copy these lines of code from here and I'll paste that inside our data object. Now if I execute our getCommands API endpoint from Postman, we will have metadata for paginations in the JSON response. You see, now we have metadata in the JSON response for pagination. Let's provide a par page value here as a query parameter. Now this should return 2 record per page. You see, now we are getting only 2 record per page. Okay, so our getCommand API endpoint is working. Now I'll provide all of this code inside a try catch block to handle the errors. So what I'll do, I'll open a try catch block here, and if any error occurs inside this try block, then we'll return a JSON response from this catch block with the error data. And now I'll put all of this code inside this try block. So let's copy all of this code and paste that code inside this. Sorry, we need to select the query variable also, and then let's provide the code inside this try block. Okay, now let's execute our getCommands API again. It is working fine. Now I'm going to modify the JSON response for newly created comment data. So let's open our block comment controllers create method. So we return the JSON response from here. Okay, so instead of returning this comment data, I'll return a JSON response with the comment data in the same structure what we are returning for each comment in our getCommands API endpoint. So what I'll do, I'll copy the code from our list method and I will paste inside our create method. And I'll remove this short functionality from here, and inside this match condition I'll provide _id because I'm going to get the newly created comment data. So inside this match object I'll provide _id is equal to the newly created comment ID, and I'm going to load user data for this comment also, so that I am using lookup method here, and then I store the comment data to a variable called comments, and we can get the data with the help of block comments models aggregate method. And so this aggregate method we need to call the we need to pass the conditions. Okay, and this will return as a promise, so I'll use await here, and this will return only one record because we're providing a match condition and we're passing the newly created comment ID here. And this aggregate method will return us the data inside an array, so I'll return a JSON response with the newly created comment data, and will provide the first data. Okay, because our aggregate method will return us the data inside an array, so I'll provide the data from our comments array 0 index. Okay, now let's execute our add comment API again. You see, now the JSON structure is similar to the structure which I returned for each comment in our getComments API endpoint. So our getComments API is successfully created. In the next lecture, I am going to create our update comment API endpoint. So stay connected.